because the one thing he always did want was definitive scarring, and he wanted it quite straight, but it had to be purposeful. We did then find out he didn't want it to look anything resemble an accident, but there was no real backstory.
Welcome everyone to the next episode of We Need to Talk About Oscar. Today I'm joined by Josh Weston, the prosthetic supervisor of Poor Things. Hi Josh, how are you doing?
Hi, yes, good, thanks. Very well, very well. How are you?
I'm doing great too, thank you for asking. First of all, let me congratulate you because you recently got nominated for a BAFTA and an Oscar as well. How are you feeling?
Yeah, exciting. Yeah, very exciting. Very surreal. Just came back from the Oscar luncheon, nominees luncheon, which was great. Lots of stars, lots of schmoozing, not the sort of thing I usually do. So, yeah, it was good. It was an eye-opener to the kind of celebrity world. But it was nice. It was nice. It was very fleeting, very quick. But yeah, it was good. And we have the BAFTA ceremony this Sunday, and we have the BAFTA party this evening. So yeah, it's a busy weekend.
Great. I wanted to ask you about your background and how you became a makeup artist in the film industry.
Well, I started very young when I knew what I wanted to do when I was about 11 years old, really, just watching films I probably shouldn't have been watching, and then trying to find out a bit more about them. And I kind of knew that there was someone behind the camera who was doing all the makeup, and that obviously there was a job there. And I stumbled across a store that used to sell a magazine, always still around actually, called Fangoria and Gore Zone and all those kind of publications. And I kind of got into it like that. And then just started making stuff in my own bedroom, just sticking nose putty on my face and painting myself up and taking photographs, collecting like a portfolio of really bad makeups that I did on myself, sending them around, getting feedback, being told the best thing to do is to try and to go on a sculpting course and learn to sculpt. So I did that. And it just kind of snowballed, really. I got a job at a company called Creature Effects, Pinewood Studios with Dave Elsey and Cliff Wallace. Worked there for a number of years on and off, and kind of got a foot in, really, with that. And then on to image animation. And then it just kind of snowballed, as I say, from there. I mean, the work at the very beginning was very few and far between, but the in-between times, it would just be me sculpting and practicing. So... yeah, and sending work around to studios. And that's kind of the way I did it. That was before internet. So these days it's really easy. You just type in who the person you want to speak to, and then there it is, comes up. But yeah, so that's about it, long and short of it.
So you always wanted to be in the film industry?
Always, yeah. I can't ever think of anything other than that, really. I mean, when I was really young, I used to like writing stories as well. And I thought, oh, maybe this a writer. And they're always horror stories because my mum used to kind of read me Bram Stoker's Dracula quite a lot when I was young. So I got kind of like fascinated by the gothic-y type of things. So, yeah, I used to write little short stories, but that kind of faded away. I wasn't very good at it and pursued... sculpting and makeup. At the beginning, it was all makeup. It was all trying to change my own face, like a Lon Chaney type person. So, yeah, that was about it.
Looking through your filmography, there are so many interesting titles there. You worked on Suspiria, the Fantastic Beasts film, Elvis, Last Night in Soho, and the list goes on, really. Do you get approached with these jobs and then you get to choose, or how does this work for you?
Well, I'm a freelancer foremost. I do do design my own stuff, but for a lot of the time I'm working freelancing around for other effects companies. So those films you just mentioned, last night in Soho was with BGFX, and I was approached by them to come on board and apply some makeups. And Suspiria and Fantastic Beasts, that was Mark Coulier Creatures. And that's kind of where I usually work most of the time. Mark was the prosthetic supervisor on Poor Things. And we all got together for that. But with Mark, I've been with Mark on and off since about 2012. But yeah, as you say, I get a phone call usually and asked of my availability. And then I can, if I can do it, I'll do it. If I can't, I'm busy at Mark's or with something of my own project. But yeah, it's kind of how it's been working for me.
So it was Mark who also got you attached to Poor Things?
Well, no, actually, Nadia Stacey, the makeup designer, got me first attached to Poor Things. She approached me when we were working on a film called Mothering Sunday, which I did for her. And she spoke about it very loosely. And I didn't really know the story. I knew we were just talking about one character, the Baxter character. But then it kind of transpired that the film was getting bigger and bigger and the content was getting bigger and bigger. And I don't have a big workshop facility. So I suggested Nadia was going to contact Mark anyway to take the project on. And then I went and worked for Mark on that. But I got to do the lead makeup and be the on-set prosthetic supervisor, and I co-designed it with Mark and Nadia. I sculpted it. So yeah. So it was kind of like bounced from Nadia, then back to Mark, because we've all worked together before. So it kind of made sense.
I actually wanted to ask you about if you can provide an overview of your role as a prosthetic supervisor on this film. So it was mostly Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, well, just taking care of what Nadia really wanted in terms of all the other little makeups, because other than the Baxter makeup, we've had the head scar that's on Alfie that you may have seen. And we had 2 versions of that sculpted that were sent over, and just trying to organize makeup tests and getting an approved look from Nadia and from Yorgos, and then providing Nadia with some more cesarean section scars and some other little scars for the ladies, and a scar for Emma Stone. But that's really just organizing things and just trying to see what works best, really. And then it's just taking on the day-to-day application with Willem's makeup, which was applied with myself and Robin Pritchard. Yeah, so basically just dealing with the on-set questions from the first AD and just dealing with things that that would just crop up, because we have parts of the film obviously are black and white, parts are color, parts are sort of technicolor. So little tweaks here and there with coloration, but generally, once that makeup was stuck on, it kind of held up, and you could shoot black and white and you could shoot color, and you didn't have to have a massive alteration in the general look. But yeah, as a supervisor, it's just making sure everything kind of comes together, really.
And how do you start on such a project? I mean, with the designing and stuff.
Well, yeah, designing it all starts with the life cast of your actor, which we didn't have at first. So I sculpted a portrait of Willem, like a 3/4 scale portrait. And from that, I sculpted probably about 10 versions of the makeup, the Baxter makeup. And then when we finally got the life cast of Willem, because Willem lives in Italy, so it wasn't that accessible, and it was COVID, and it was difficult for everyone. So yeah, we got the life cast, and then I just sculpted more. And it was just a process of just keep sculpting. And then we'd take those images, photograph them, and Mark would send them to his digital guys that he had working on the project, and they would colorize what I'd sculpted and put clothing on it and hair and make it like a final image. And then they would do their own independent designs as well. But generally for me, it was just sculpting as many variations as possible, trying to get as much feedback as we can, finding out which areas Yorgos liked and Nadia liked, and then going back, looking at various different versions of the sculpt and making, let's say, taking five different sculptures and trying to create a new one from that. So you're taking little elements from here, and here, and then you create a new design. And we did that. collaborated on that quite a bit until we kind of came up with what you see on the screen, really. But yeah, lots of sculpting, and I think the project we had about 12 weeks from start until we were on set. So it seems like a long time, but when you've got to design something that's never been really seen before, and then you have to take in all the other elements, because it's not just me involved. It's you've got mold makers, you've got the art finishers, you've got hair punchers, you've got a big team of people behind it all that kind of makes this whole thing work. And then I go on set with the pieces and stick them on with myself and Robin, as I said. So yeah, it's a big process, but it's a good fun process.
Mm-hmm. Did Yorgos have some sort of concept originally on how the character should look like?
No, he had no concepts whatsoever. We provided all the concept. The only idea was a Francis Bacon-esque type painting. You know the typical Francis Bacon paintings. The faces are all mismatched and very, very odd looking. He wanted something like that, but obviously with a prosthetic, you can't really do that. You can take it to a limit, to a certain point, and then it becomes not believable, really. But what they really wanted, and what they took from the Francis Bacon sort of look, was you always wanted the ear. You wanted the ear really pushed out from the side of the head. You wanted it even more than what we have, but we had to tone it back a bit. So, Yorgos is I would definitely say he definitely wanted more volume. So we tried to provide that, and we had a makeup test. We applied everything, but he still wanted more volume out of the chin. So we couldn't remake anything. There wasn't enough time. So it was Mark, my the prosthetic supervisor. He decided it would be the only real way around it was to make some plumpers. And plumpers are just shapes that you stick on the face first before you stick the final piece on. And because you've stuck these shapes on and then you put the other piece on top of that, it creates a new kind of shape. It essentially gave us a bit more volume, which is what he wanted. And that got approved, and we have green light from then on in.
And apart from the painting, did you have any other references or inspirations that you could use, or was it all just your creativity?
Originally, the images we were looking at were actually not the right ones. We were looking at a lot of World War One. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Guinea Pig Club, which is the pioneering plastic surgeons of World War One. It's the unfortunate servicemen that came back from war with their faces just blasted from shrapnel wounds or gunshot wounds, and they were all then refixed with plastic surgery, new techniques of plastic surgery. So he looked at things like that, because the one thing he always did want was definitive scarring, and he wanted it quite straight, but it had to be purposeful. We did then find out he didn't want it to look anything resembled an accident, but there was no real backstory. We knew that his father had performed these operations for whatever reason to achieve whatever, but we didn't really know, and I don't think it really mattered. But in the end, it just came down to having a nice patination of scarring on the face to make it look interesting, and just for the viewer to kind of try and figure out what was going on. But not even we don't even know that.
I guess in this case, realism wasn't much of a requirement.
Well, no, I mean, and definitely not logic as well. No logic to it. I mean, realism. It's big. It's volume. It stands out quite a lot in the film, but it's actually, you've got a lot of Willem there. So yeah, you're just trying to pull back to reality a little bit and have the pieces finish in an area that Willem's own anatomy can take over, and it makes it more believable then.
But in the end, the texture in the final result looks extremely realistic. What kind of materials do you use for such prosthetic?
I sculpt everything in oil-based clay. It's called plastiline. It's non-drying clay. And it's really relatively hard, and it gives you the ability to get quite a lot of detail in the actual final piece. So I spend a lot of time with texturing. Takes a long time. pore by pore, really. It's all just tooled and textured by hand. It takes a bit of practice, but it is a technique and it can be taught. The more difficult thing is sculpting form and generally making something look kind of believable.
And were there any visual effects in the film in Willem's face, or was it all just the actual?
It's all in camera makeup. Yeah. No visual effects enhancements at all. Yeah, the only VFX stuff is obviously the strange animals you see roaming around the house, which is amazing. All that stuff's fantastic. Obviously, there's loads of visual effects. There's tons of visual effects for the whole thing. But for Willem, I think we got away with not having any VFX kind of additions. So we didn't have any areas that were painted blue and then the computer guys took over or anything like that. It was all in kind of just a standard prosthetic makeup. I think it was down to 5 pieces in the end, all glued on. With no enhancement.
And how long did it take to apply this?
The makeup took 2 hours 45 minutes for us to glue it on, maybe a little less when we were getting quicker. Then he goes straight to hair. He has half an hour or so with hair. And then he goes straight to costume, and he has a certain amount of time with costume. I'm not too sure. Could be half hour, could be 45 minutes. And then he'll come back to us for final checks, usually 5 minutes. And then he's ready for set. So, there was a story reported a while back that it was 6 hours in makeup, which is just a complete fabrication. It may have been 6 hours from the moment he was picked up at his hotel to the moment he got on set. I can well believe that. But for us to stick the makeup on, and as you've probably seen the time lapse of the makeup, it's not 6 hours. Actually, that makeup, I was told by Searchlight, clocked in at 2 hours. So I don't think it was that quick, but we averaged, I reckon, around 2.5, 2:45.
Mm-hmm. And you had to reapply this every day. He had
every single day. Every single day. Each piece gets thrown away in the bin because it can't survive the remover. It breaks down the material and it just becomes a big sludgy ball of mess when you take it off. So that goes straight into the bin. And then, we have a fresh set each day. And we applied that makeup 21 shooting days, and a few tests as well on top of that. So, just under 25 times probably we had Willem in the makeup. And he was lovely. He was really, really professional and just let us get on with it, really. Yeah, he's a lovely chap to work with.
And the only way to shorten this process was, I guess, just the routine, right?
Yeah. You can't really, it gets to a point you can't really shorten it anymore. You do pick up the pace. You can start a makeup on day 1 at say 3 hours, and then by day 5 you've got it down to to 2 easily. You figure out ways of cutting corners and just making the process run smoother, really, should I say.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually based in Budapest, Hungary, and I know that majority of the film was shot here. Did you also travel with the crew here?
Yeah. Hungary's lovely. That's my second time shooting over there. I did the Nutcracker years before. Hungary's lovely, beautiful city. So it was a really good location. So, and all the Hungarian crew are fantastic. And all the sets were made, the Hungarian set were fantastic as well. Yeah, it was really good. It's really impressive. Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, my next question was going to be if you could bring your own team, or was it just Hungarian professionals that you hired here? Or
Well, no, it was myself and, as I say, Robin Pritchard doing Willem, and that was us throughout. And then Mark, the prosthetics supervisor, and Paul Jones, who's the workshop supervisor, they came over to do all the body wrangling and the pregnant belly on Emma Stone. And then we had the operation scene with Emma Stone with the brain removal, which is, again, that's a big VFX thing. But I sculpted the back of a head cranium for Emma Stone, and then the brain, and then that was rigged up, and then Mark and Paul dealt with that on set. But generally, I think most of Nadia's makeup crew for the crowd were all Hungarian, and she brought over her core team, which is what we usually always do anyway. You'd have a core team, and then you'd hire out locals.
I believe the next time we can see your work will be in the new Bob Marley biopic. One, is that right?
Yeah. He's got a nose. Yeah, he's wearing a nose throughout the whole film. It's from up the top all the way down, and I don't think anyone's noticed it yet. So.
Yeah, I wanted to ask if are there any prosthetics in that film?
It's just his nose. It's just his nose. Kingsley, from the profiles, his nose really sweeped up, and it was just didn't resemble Bob Marley. Although, Kingsley has a different look, we still wanted to try and create something that was a little similar in the profile. But other than that, there's not much else you can really do. It's performance led.
And as a last question, I wanted to ask whether you already have some new projects for the future in sight.
Well, we're going to be, again, I'll be working with Mark. We're going to be doing the next season of The Witcher. So that's coming up. But other than that, we are working on another project. I'm not sure if I can mention it really at the moment. It might be a bit secret. I might get in trouble. So I can mention The Witcher because I know that's happening. And we're going to be doing that, which will be fun because they're a great team of people, good crowd.
Well, thank you, Josh, for talking to us.
No, you're more than welcome. More than welcome.
I think you truly did an amazing work on Poor Things. It was amazing.
Thank you. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
All righty. Great. Thanks then. Bye.